There we go. I think that'll work. Hello and welcome back to All Hands on Tech Live. I'm Jeremy Morgan, and it's really good to be back. So I was gone for a couple weeks. I've had shoulder surgery. Actually just took off the sling for this because it's awful distracting. But yeah, this whole thing got replaced. And so I took a couple of streams off, and we had our author summit last week, which you may have seen some of those streams. They were pretty cool, but we're going to jump back into doing our Metar Reader today. So without further ado, let's just jump right back into it here. Now, if you've been following my streams, I'm going to do a quick tech check here really quick to make sure we are everywhere we're supposed to be. And it looks like we are not on YouTube for some reason. Let me double check this really quick here. And yeah, it would appear that we are not on YouTube. So I'm not really sure why we're not on YouTube, but we're not on YouTube. So as I've said before, our streams almost always go to Twitch. Actually, I don't think they've not gone on Twitch. So if you'd like to see all of our streams, follow us on Twitch. And that's the place where you can always see our streams, because sometimes they don't show up on LinkedIn, sometimes they don't show up on YouTube, sometimes they don't show up on other places, but they always, pretty much always show up on Twitch. So follow us on Twitch. I will find out what is going on with YouTube at some other time, which is fine. Let's see. Yep. I guess we're just not on YouTube today, and that's fine. So I've got the chat opened up here. You might notice here next to me, there's a link here. Chat with us on our Discord. We have a Discord that's pretty active. It's pretty awesome. Hey, Thindle. Hey, Scott. How's it going? So yeah, we're going to jump right into here. I'll give a quick 2-minute intro for people who have not been watching our previous streams about what we're doing here. We've got a Blazor application that we created, a Blazor server-side application here. And I'll bring it up. There we go. And so for the first part of our stream, or our first couple of streams, we did this IP thing where we would go out and find an IP address. It's a little bit different in Blazor because we don't have some of the real easy server-side stuff that we had in ASP.NET. Like we had server variables, we had all kinds of ways in ASP.NET to find like the agent information. And Blazor doesn't really have a lot of that stuff because it packages this stuff up, it sends it as JavaScript across to the browser. It's a little bit different structure. However, we were able to build a JavaScript application that would go out and hit a service, and that service would say, your IP is X, and it would come from the agent, from the browser. So this is my current IP address here. And then we made it go to an IP to city database, this GeoIP database, and we have it look up and says, you're in Hillsboro, Oregon. And then we took that and we took the coordinates and made a map with Google Maps. So as I've explained before, mine says I'm in Hillsboro, Oregon. I'm actually down here in Laurelwood, which is close enough. You know, pretty much all of these kind of rural country areas here tie back into Hillsboro because that's where the big pipe is. That's where Intel and Nike and all of these big tech companies are. They've got a pipe that goes down this Highway 26 into here, and then it kind of splits out to us. So I think Hillsboro is pretty accurate for my IP address. For weather, we created this Metar Reader, and a Metar is a weather report that's released by airports every 55 minutes. And it's released as a text string that looks like this. And we've taken that text string and broken it down, kind of made it human readable. We've got Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. We've got our altimeter reading, visibility. All of this works right now, but it does not work 100% the way I would like it. And it doesn't work with international stuff very well. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try to do some of the finishing touches on that. Hello, Al, you the Crow. So much Blazor today. I will do as much Blazor as people want me to. I love Blazor. It's been a lot of fun. It's super cool. Didn't you get the local airport here working? I think I did at one point. I don't know if it works now. Let's just jump in and try it really quick. I know I still have it in my comments here. So I believe it was ESG8 or ESGJ. I think was our Metar. So instead of KHIO, which is what we have today, we're going to do this one. And let's see what it comes up with. So we've got our IP page. So for ESGJ, we have the airport code, time, wind speed, wind direction, and everything else kind of looks broken. So we did manage to grab that few for few clouds. We got scattered right here at 6,000. The 1109 did not get read, and the Q0997, I'm not even sure what that is. And let's see. All right, and check something here really quick. Cool. And so it looks like today we're on Twitch, Facebook, and LinkedIn appears to be working. So that is awesome. And a lot of love for Blazor in the chat today, which, like I said, I love Blazor. I'll do Blazor all day long. There's some cool things I want to do with this application, but another idea I have is building a static site generator with Blazor, so you get the best of both worlds. So if you're building a blog and you've got a couple different choices, some of the really popular choices out there are something like WordPress, because you can log into WordPress, you can edit things, you can save them. Very user-friendly. You don't need to know any programming languages or anything silly like that. And another one that I like to use, like what I use on my blog, is actually I use it on jeremymorgan.com and I use it on allhandsontech.com, is Hugo, which is a Golang-based static site generator that turns Markdown into text. So what I want to do is combine those two things with Blazor. So have a Blazor backend that people can go in and edit things. They don't have to know programming languages or anything else. And then they save it, and that turns into Markdown that's generated into HTML, or maybe it's just turned into HTML, haven't decided. But that's what I think my next project will be this year, and we can do that with Blazor. I've never heard of static before, but that's I'm assuming a static site generator. Looks at publishing dates, whether to include an exported site. That is pretty cool. So some of the refactoring I'm going to do to this today might fix some of our issues here. I don't know what VSCH is that just came up from here, so I'm going to look. What does VSCH mean in a Metar? Hectopascals. Holy moly. So yeah, that's that's something that I haven't seen before. So one of the things I'm going to do is we're going to do one of the things we've been talking about for a while. Use a C# and, well, razor. Oh, very cool. I'm sure, like, most of the things I'm building on here are things that I've reinvented. Just for learning purposes, right? Which there's Metar readers all over the place out there. But this is fun because we're building it. We're making it. So one of the things that we're probably going to focus on pretty well today, so we've got a couple methods here: store dew point, store cloud report. We've got a lot of these like storage, store this thing, store that thing. I can see I kind of need to clean it up a little bit. Take some of these blank lines out, store altimeter. And then we had this get wind direction, which was kind of cool. And then store wind. And then WX result. Consider declaring this as nullable. I'll consider it and not do it. I'm building a personal site with a blog. Building something that's out there. Awesome. Is it open source? Is it something that we could take a look at? That would be pretty cool. I think the one that I build will be open source. For better or worse, people will be able to look at what we've built. All right. So here, let's jump back into this right here. So what we do is we're just taking the Metar and splitting it by spaces. Oh, awesome. 2 hours old. That's great. That's pretty cool. So we're going to take the Metar string, split it by spaces, because we know that all Metars are split by space. Then we get the length of the array, and we say, if it's more than 1 or more than 0, then we have fields. Now what I've done here is say, if it's field 1, it's the airport ID. Or field 0, which is the first field, it's the airport ID. If it's field 1, it's the date time. Some of this stuff works pretty well, but I would like to expand on the report type function, the get report type, and just use that as we iterate through everything, no matter how many fields there are. So it's going to get a little messy before it gets messier. Do you code review other people's Blazor code? I can, for sure. I'm not a Blazor expert, so I've been doing C# for a long time. And I've been doing Blazor for a couple of years, but I'm not a Blazor expert, but I can definitely do a code review and check it out and kind of give my 2 cents, for sure. I know there are a lot of other folks out there who could call themselves Blazor experts, for sure. And I wouldn't call myself a Blazor expert. However, I could definitely do a code review and take a look at that stuff. Just trying to link my Azure SQL DB to my Blazor app, but it doesn't want to. Yeah, that's always kind of fun. Feel free to email me if you want. If you need any kind of help or anything, email me jeremy-morgan@pluralsight.com and maybe send me a link to GitHub or something or some code, and I'll definitely check it out and see if I can help. So here we're gonna really lean on this get report type. And for this get report type, we've used regex stuff in here. Like a lot of programmers, I generally learn enough regex to get a job done, and then I don't use it for 6 months and forget about it. That's kind of where I'm at now. I've just kind of got some really basic regex fields in here to see the types of fields, and that's what we're gonna expand on a little bit. Okay. All right. So instead of all of this, we're going to do some serious commenting here. I'll probably have to get rid of these, but all the way down to the bottom. basically. So let's see that. Doesn't look like I've commented out everything. Let's try everything in the loop here. Go here. If I have to, I'll just yank it out completely. There we go. We'll comment it like that. I hate doing that, but it'll work. So now we're just looping through the Metar count once again. So we could do something like, or debug. I think will work here. Maybe not. Or we could just, actually we could just step it. We'll step it through here. So let's run this and we'll just make sure we're getting all the data that we think we're getting here. All right, so we have our Metar count, which is 9. Under here, we have our Metar text, which is what we want to read. We have Zulu time, which is not read. We have an our Metar object, which is almost entirely null. So this is exactly where we want to start. And we're going to use this little friend here, get report type. So I'm going to say get report type Metar data I. That means that every single field will go through get report type. And then we can do kind of an if then. If you like, sure. if you'd like to send a GitHub repo here, that's perfectly fine. There's probably folks in the chat on here. Looks like we do have a lot of people on LinkedIn also that might be able to help. Looks like we don't have any viewers on Facebook right now. But we've got quite a few people here on the Twitch stream, so this should work. All right, so we're going to do get report type. Let's say var report type is get report type. And the first one we're going to look for is airport ID. So it's going to have a station identifier. If Metar data length is equal to 4, it's probably an ID. That's what we're going to put into our report type function down here. So here we're grabbing like first 3. If it's all letters, it must be cloud or remarks. We're probably going to take this functionality and kind of put it more towards the bottom. First, check for an airport. There's going to be a lot of if then else stuff going on. Check for an airport ID. So this string Metar field if the length is exactly 4, then it might be an airport ID. Now what I'm going to do is hard code in a Metar here. I think we're going to do this one, KHIO. Actually, we can just do it live. It's fine. And we're going to see if we can get KHIO out of that. So check for an airport ID. If the length is exactly 4, and we're also going to look for if it is all letters. Check for an airport ID. So we know the length is 4 if we get here. So now we need to say if, we'll just steal some of this here. We'll say if it's letters, then that will also tell us, like if it's just 4 letters, then it's probably, most likely, it is going to be a airport ID, because there isn't anything else in that string that's really an airport ID. So we're going to say report type. We will say return Metar field, or no, report type string empty. We're going to say airport ID, and we're going to return that report type, because I think we can just start returning these. And we'll say else. Put all of this stuff in here. Oops. And I've momentarily forgot my format code here. There we go. So else, I'll put these in here. Oh, okay. Someone said airport IDs can have numbers. That makes it a little trickier. We will go to edge here. (3B0) Southbridge Municipal Airport. All right, that does complicate it a little bit. So one thing I could look up is airport ID rules, and see if we can find the actual rules for an airport ID are. Which actually, now that I have rules, it's just a bunch of like rules and regulations. We'll just search airport ID. Airport identifier codes. Let's look this up and see if there's some rules in here for what. Three character codes are required. Let's see, 2500, blah, blah, blah. Cargo service airports. Airportcodes.us, which is where we're at right now. Let's see if there's a listing, like just a big listing. USA airports. We'll say by state. Ah, yes, and these don't have the K in front of them, even though they should. Let's see how many airports are in Oregon. And that just shows me crap. So by state, Alaska. I see this goes all the way down. So let's just do a quick eye scan and see how many of these have numbers and where they're at. There's one that's 2A9 in Alaska. So if we look up that Metar, what is it going to say? Been looking at other Metar decoders for inspiration. Could not get Metar for this. Put a K in front of it. Still couldn't get it. So this Metar decoder may not support numbers either. KWT. KKWT. HIO. Looks like this one isn't working for any of them, is it? Oh, it works for KHIO. All right. Welcome everyone to the chat here. I see the chat is like blowing up, but yeah, still. So I think I am going to have to just stick with the airports that have the 4-digit code. So if we scroll down here to Oregon, where I live, Hillsboro is the one that I've been using, KHIO. And let's see, I don't actually even see it. Here's Salem, McNary. So I actually don't even see Hillsboro on here. So I'm wondering if these are like small, regional, municipal, like really small airports. Well, there's PDX. That's the biggest one in Oregon. So yeah, it's interesting. Let's try Pendleton. KPDT. Yep, it does Pendleton. APDX. I'm just going to pick a completely random one that I've never heard of. The Rhinelander Oneida County Airport, RHI. Yep, and it brings up. So I think for now I'm probably just going to stick with the ones without numbers, since there doesn't appear to be many of them, and maybe I can just throw an if statement in there and see. Hello, Surly Dev. Yes, Metar data. That's what we're building, a Metar Reader in Blazor. So far it works okay. It's there, you know, it's working. But we're trying to make it work well, which is a trickier part. So I think I'm going to step through this and just say, if the length is 4, it's likely an airport ID. If it's all letters, even more likely. And let's just step through this very first field as we run it. I think it's going to come up in here. Not sure. Oh, there we go. Mink. All right. So our Metar field is KHIO. It's just cool. Let's step over it. Report type. Oh, we are taking the first 3, which doesn't really matter for this. And now it's saying if the Metar length is equal to 4, and that's true. Oh, very cool. Thank you, Thindle. I'll check those out for sure. I'm going to, after this stream, I'll copy both of those and take a look at it for sure. So our Metar field length is equal to 4 because we stepped into here, and now we need to say, is it a bunch of letters? And it is. So we think that this is an airport ID. So we'll say return report type. And then we're out. So what we can do is go back up to our cool little thing here. Metar string, decode metar, which is in here. We'll go down here and we'll start switching based on that report type. So for now, we're going to say if report type is equal to, I don't even remember what I called it. I think I just called it airport space ID. Or no, airport ID. If it's equal to airport ID, we're going to store the airport ID. Easy. Now we need to check for the date and time. Now the way we did that here, you can see, is if it contains Z, which is kind of hokey because Z could be anywhere, but we were just assuming because it's in the second element of the array, position number 1 or index 1, and it contains Z, then it's probably a date, but that's kind of loose checking, really. So let's see, ICAO seemed to be 4-letter, IAT 3-letter, and FAA can be 3 through 5 and alphanumeric. Yeah, so I think we're gonna have to skip the alphanumeric ones for now. And what I may do is just create a database of alphanumeric ones and say if it looks like this, if it's one of these, then we'll do that. I think that'd probably be the best way to handle that one. So one thing we need to look at is the date, time, and the length. So we can just take one of these date times here, and we'll say this is what we're going to look for. We can put that in our else because that length is going to be greater than 4. Then we'll say, hey, if the length is 7, then maybe it's this. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just making sure. If it's 7, it may be a date time. And then we'll do another check where we check for that Z, like we did before, if it contains Z. And that's going to be at the very end. So I should probably check to see if it's at the end. Z. Yeah, some of my coworkers would absolutely agree with you that it is not Z, it is Z. So in the United States, and I don't know what other countries we say Z, but a lot of other folks say Z. Yeah, in Europe, and my coworkers in Australia also say Z. And my coworker in Canada says Z. So maybe I should just start saying Z. It's kind of like the metric system, where the United States likes to do their own thing. Contains, why not ends with? Exactly what I was just thinking, because it's supposed to be at the end. So ends with is probably better than contains. And so this one, we're going to say report type, date time. Do you have a good reference guide for decoding Metar data? No, I do not. The reason I started doing this is I recently got my my drone pilot license, And so part of that was learning to read metars for the test. And that's what gave me the idea to do this. So I know how to read metars by looking at them, but I don't have a really good reference. So that flight radar one, let's just bring that up. That is probably, let's see, the one that I've used before, but I'm not sure. Yeah. There we go. So yeah, this kind of gives a good good rundown instead of my brain. And Surly Dev, yes, you have to decode METAR for your drone test. So in order to, so basically I got the Part 107, basically to do anything for anyone else or anything other than recreation, you have to get a Part 107 in the United States. And it's basically like a ground school pilot's license. So you have to read METARs and TAFs. You have to interpret sectional maps, all that fun stuff like a real pilot, except you're operating a toy helicopter. There's even certain things like approach, stuff like that, a lot of stuff about weather. But yeah, all that's part of the 107 test that I recently passed a couple months ago. And I just basically did it so that I could run my drone with the fire department and a few other things. It's not that hard of a test, but it does seem like a little bit overkill for a drone. So we know, and I might refactor how I do this too. I might, instead of return report type, I might put some kind of code or something, some kind of Boolean bit switching. much more involved than the UK test. Yeah, it's like a split between all of the safety things, like you need to be 400 feet above ground level and don't go over 100 knots and all of these different things, but then a lot of it is like real pilot stuff. So airport, and if it's a date time, we'll store date time up here. And now we'll just store the date time, which we did some special stuff with this too, didn't we? We removed the Z, we got the day of the month, we get the time, we store it all on our object. So we'll just pull all of this stuff in here and use it again. And I just commented it more. Get the day of the month, get the time, store it on our object. So we need to change this to METAR data I on both of these. And we're just doing a substring, we're moving that 0. Then we're going to move the day of the month and the Zulu time. And then our METAR Zulu date time, METAR date. I thought I was storing it on the object in some other way. Because we are getting that day of the month. Yeah, we'll see. Now let's step through and make sure that this is working the way we expect it to. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. Not over 400 feet, under 400 feet. So sorry, I misspoke there. So ground level to 400 feet unless you're near a building or mountain, then you can go 400 feet up above that. I wonder why my IP thing isn't working. Oh well. So let's step through here. We got our report type. We know that this one's going to be an airport ID, so it's going to store it. It's still an airport ID, so it's going to skip. Here we are in the next iteration of the loop. It's not an airport ID. There we go. So it skips, but it is a date time, so it should go right into here. There we go. Awesome. So Metar data. And yep, Metar data substring, day of the month. Let's see what that ends up being. That ends up being 27th. Perfect. Zulu time ends up being 1753. So our Zulu date time ends up being 271753. So that works great. Now we're on to our next field here. So we've got our airport ID, we've got our date time. The next one is wind. So in this one I said if Metar data is equal to auto, and probably international, and then we just store the wind data there. Otherwise, if it ends with KT, it's probably wind data. So I'm just going to take this stuff and we'll pull it down into our get report type. Now this length, we're doing a lot of switching based on length here, right? So if it's 4, we do this stuff, else kind of everything else. If it's 7, then it must be a date. The wind, I'll have to go up here and look. The wind is all over the place. So this one we're going to probably have to see. So as you can see here, the wind, if there's gusts, it's going to be a different length. There's several different lengths, but they all end with KT. So I think I can do this check right at the very beginning and say if it ends with KT, then it's wind. And we'll do that before we even check length or anything like that. We'll just say if it's KT, it's wind. So we'll start up here. We'll say if Metar field ends with KT, well then it must be wind. Now I'll take all this stuff, delete it. And I don't remember, but I think if it's auto, we just we'll just pass it through. So we actually don't care if it's auto at this point here. We'll move that back up. So if it ends with KT, I think we're just going to call this, actually we're going to take this stuff and we're going to pull it back up in there. But if it ends with KT, report type is wind, return report type. And it should just exit right out of there. We'll go up here and say if report type wind, and then we can do this auto stuff. And this is an automatic station, probably international. So if report type is wind, this here, store wind, Metar data. And yeah, it looks like we could just, this kind of checking is sort of useless. So we'll just say if the report type's wind, we'll store wind. Because store wind has quite a bit of stuff going on with it anyway. measurable wind, 0, 0, 0, 0. So all that is working how we expect it to. I guess we didn't step through that, but that's all right. Now we have visibility. So if it ends with SM, then we know it's visibility. Perfect. This should be a pretty easy one. Again, we'll do up here, we'll do our check up here, and we'll just say if Metar field ends with SM, and we will keep this right here for the top. And just say if it is, then our report type is visibility, and we'll return that report type. Perfect. And then up here we can say if report type visibility, then we'll do this visibility stuff, which I don't remember why, but we're substringing it. I had to remove the square miles from it. So I'll hit play. Visibility, 10 statute miles. Clouds, we don't have clouds yet. And actually, it doesn't look like we have anything for clouds, because it's clear. So that's another thing we have to check for, right? Is the 3-letter acronym for clouds. AO2. Yeah, the cloud cover one is, cloud cover is going to be a little tricky. So few is what it sounds like. It's clear for whether it's fused. It's going 1, 2 octas. And it can also be scattered, broken, or overcast. And I do believe that we checked for that here. Get report type, if report type is cloud, store cloud report. So we've already addressed this one. So if report type is cloud, store cloud report. That one was a little tricky, if I remember properly. That one had a lot of stuff going on. And I'm just doing a quick tech check here. Oh, and we have a lot of people viewing on Twitch, which is awesome because Twitch is where we're at. So if you are watching us right now, anything other than Twitch, follow us on Twitch. That's where it always goes. Always goes to Twitch. Love Twitch. Love being on it. It's fun. So we did, if it ends with KT, if it ends with SM, cloud cover. So if we're getting our cloud report type, if report type equals cloud, store cloud report. And now we're starting to get into where we already had some logic, which is great. It was applying to that particular field, but now we're going to apply it to every field. So we already kind of not last week, but the last time I streamed, we solved a lot of these problems here. So here's all our cloud reports. Maybe I'll put that in a switch. I don't know. Yes, Twitch is where the cool kids hang out. Twitch is my favorite place to stream. It's where people are the most interactive. It's just a lot of fun, and it works every time. Every time we stream, it comes out on Twitch. I can't say that about YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, any of those other places. That's kind of a crapshoot, but it always works on Twitch. So we have visibility, cloud cover, get report type, and then for this one, yeah, we started to do a lot of switching here. If report type cloud, if it's altimeter, it's temp dew point. And yeah, we've kind of, yeah, so this might actually, just saving here might actually get us closer to where we need to be. Exactly. Look at that. It looks like magic, right? It's yeah, it's kind of like magic. So for KHIO right now, it is the 27th. It is 17:53 Zulu time. Oh, which reminds me, I'm getting close to the top of the hour when I was going to end the stream. It like gets away from me. You know, time flies when you're having fun, right? Totally gets away from me. So clouds, we have no clouds below 12,000, and then we have 1,300 in there for some reason, and then no clouds below 12,000 and 1,300 again. So I see that I have an issue here. Visibility, 10 statute miles. That sounds about right. The temperature, at the top of 1700 Zulu time hours. I was planning on doing this for an hour. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Temperature, 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. Definitely sounds right to me. And 293.15 Kelvin. I have no idea what 293.15 Kelvin feels like, but I know what 20C and 68 feels like, and that seems pretty accurate for where I'm at right now. The dew point is 1355. Altimeter looks a little goofy. But I did accomplish what I was trying to accomplish, but I can see that I still have some bugs here. And what I was trying to accomplish here was I was trying to get rid of the specific, doesn't that feel good to delete piles of code like that? It always does for me. Like, you know, I've been saying for years and years, especially when I was a software developer, every single day, I'd say I love deleting code more than I like writing code. It feels really good to delete large sections of code. So what I wanted to do is get rid of all of that stuff that was very specific to fields and indexes of fields. And instead, we're just for eaching through it. We're actually for looping through it, not for eaching. But we're actually just for looping through it, calling the report type and doing it there. Yeah, so the official name of the field is altimeter, but you're right. It's atmospheric pressure. And it's just basically what it is relative to sea level atmospheric pressure, which is 29.96. But yeah, I think that's why they call it altimeters to calibrate them. But yeah, you're right. I should just call it atmospheric pressure instead. Makes it a little more clear. And for here, let's do a switch. Everybody hates switches. I don't hate switches. Switch report type. One of the reasons I don't hate switches is they do reduce the code a little bit, just a little bit. So I'm going to say if it's an airport ID, we're going to do this. And I'm just going to do a bunch of these. Well, that's kind of messy. But say case airport ID, we can remove that. case. This is going to look a lot cleaner doing this. So what I'm going to do actually is copy and paste this. So we're going to say date time. If it's date time, we're going to remove the Z and do all this fun stuff. Remove that. If it's wind, we're going to store wind. And so yeah, a lot of people hate case statements, and I'm not really sure why, because in some cases this is doing exactly what if is doing, all those if statements, but it's doing it in a lot less code. That's really the only advantage. Okay, Abaddis says, let's pretend I'm a hobby developer. What's the issue with switch statements? I don't know. It just seems like people have complained a lot about they are hard to understand, that they're restrictive, because you have to basically specify everything in the switch. And if it falls out, some of the behavior when it falls out is what it's called. Like here, you know, it's saying case, date, time, execute these statements, and then it goes to break, and it breaks out of the loop. Some people don't like how restrictive that is. For me, I like switch statements because I think it's a lot better than this if all the way down. And some people say that switch expressions are hard to understand, but I disagree with that. I think they're fairly easy to understand. You can look at this code even if you're like a first-time developer and figure it out within a couple minutes. Crow says, adding templating to switch statements is super powerful. So things like switch when conditions has been awesome. Pattern matching is amazing too. Absolutely. Yeah, pattern matching is probably what I should do here. A little more pattern matching than a switch statement, but yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I've made some switch statements that were a little wild, but worked well. So for me, I just kind of tend to go with the switch statements. It looks like I had if report type cloud in there twice. Oops. Temp dew point. We're going to store temp dew point. So basically with each of these, I'm just removing one line of code for each statement, but that works for me. Break. Yeah, else is something that I've used in this very file that we're working in, and yeah, it can get messy sometimes. So now we have a switch statement here. Pretty good, 30 lines of code. Not too bad. It just switches off that report type. Let's see if it still works the way we expect it to. And there is something that I want to look at before we go. Wind speed, no measurable wind. Wind direction, no measurable wind. Just don't write branching code. I do write branching code though. Sometimes when it's necessary. Yeah, branches out and gets wild, but I try not to. Try to keep it simple. And actually, I think this get report type is probably could be simplified a lot. So one of the things that I preach to people is make functions that do one thing and do it well, right? Like keep it simple, single responsibility principle and all that. This one is a little bit, it's a little complex. You can see this here. I think I could use pattern matching with regex. Probably some creative link statements that would just, oh, and see, I don't even have it expanded, but it would just kind of shrink this one down a little bit. But that can be good for another day. Let's find out right now before I go. Let's find out why I'm getting that repeating cloud thing again. So the wind direction one, I'm not too worried about that. Let's throw in KLAX. Let's see if things are a little different in Los Angeles. And this stuff needs unit tests so bad. Oh, there we go. We've got an error. Let's see what the error is. Let's see if I can find exactly where it is. Index outside of the bounds of right. Store temp dew point. All right. Let's jump in there before we figured out our duplicating thing. I'm going to figure out why temp dew point caused that error. So here we are in the very beginning. Switching on report type, which right now it's airport ID. Cool. We go into the next. This report type is date time. Looks like it does all the date time stuff. And we're just going to go through until we hit temp dew point. Right now it's wind. Visibility. Cool. Cloud. Store cloud report, which is few 11. This one should be temp viewpoint or temp dew point. Oh, nope, this one is cloud again. So I think that's where my, so I'm getting two cloud reports. I think that's because, oh, I already see what I did. I got lazy is what I did. So I just looked up here. I know that you folks who have been programming a while totally understand what I just did. So before I was doing it very specific based on the field. And so I just copied the code in and pasted it and didn't even think about it that I need to change all of these to I for the current field. Because I just got lazy. I was like, oh yeah, I already did that. And I just copied and pasted in without looking at it and paying attention. All these Metar data should be Metar data I, so that's the current field we're on. All right, let's go ripping through this thing again, shall we? Report type. It might just work. I don't know. Report type is visibility now. Now it's cloud. And I think I'm falsely declaring it cloud. I think there's some checking in there that I need to look at because for some reason it's saying it's cloud twice, and this is a third cloud. There we go. Now we're into temp dew point. This Metar data here is 27/19. Store temp dew point with this value, which should be Metar data 7. 27/19, that should store just fine. let's look at it down here in our Metar. Yep, all our dew points are fine. Temperatures are fine. Okay. So let's just run it again without breaking, or without breakpoints. All right, so we have. So I think I fixed my bug that I was looking at earlier, where it was repeating the cloud thing. I think it was because I didn't have that indexer in there like I should. So now we have airport code not available. We'll figure out what that's all about. Day of the month, we've got Zulu time, wind speed 9 knots, 260 degrees. We have few clouds at 1,000, a few at 14,000, scattered at 18,000, and then something at 11,700. Visibility 10 statute miles, 27 degrees, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds like LA right now. And there's our dew point and an altimeter, which I'm just going to rename that to atmospheric pressure, as Surly Dev recommended, because that makes a little bit more sense for humans. Atmospheric pressure. We can name it altimeter, leave it named altimeter everywhere else because that's what the name of the field is in the Metar, but atmospheric pressure makes more sense. What was I going? Oh, the airport code's not coming up here. So our Metar airport code, where are we storing that? Our Metar airport, our Metar data. Yes. All right, let's throw a breakpoint on it and see what's going on there. KLAX should show up. And case airport ID is not even being called. What is our report type? Looks like it's just ripping through there without stopping. So that's probably what the problem is. Report type, if the length is equal to 4, let's see if it's KT. Yeah, so it should be stopping right here, and it should return this airport ID type, but it is not. So let's set our breakpoint here. Airport ID, capital P. Oh, you're probably right. It is case sensitive. Report type, airport ID. Let's go. Oh, thank you very much, Surly Dev. That is the issue here. Let's run it again. And we don't need this. Continue. There it is. There's our airport ID. Eagle eyes. You could always add a where statement and include string comparison, ignore ordinal case. Yeah, probably should. Just for cases like that and where I forgot it. But yes, definite eagle eyes. So one thing I'm a little curious about is how I have few, scattered, and then no description. Now, if I look here, we can see where this few comes from, this few, and then scattered, 180, and then 11,700. I have no idea where that's coming from in the Metar string here. 11,700. So I'm going to step through and just look at that, look at our object as we're stepping through it. Let's see if we can find out where the heck that 11,700 number is coming from. So we're going to look at this, our Metar. And specifically, I think we want to dig into Store Cloud Report, because that's where we're seeing the goofiness, right? So there we go. Let's step through it here. So this report type is airport ID. Got that working. This report type is also, oh, that's date time. So we do all the date time stuff. We've got visibility. Now we're getting into that cloud report, because this is a cloud. So we're going to store cloud report, Metar data 4, which is going to be few 10. Let's look in here. We're going to trim few 10. Our first 3 is going to be few. And it's probably in this switch statement. I'm probably missing something here. Last 3, that's going to be our elevation. And then our cloud cover data, few 1000. Report type, we've got another cloud report here. Few 140. Cool, that one works as expected. What's the next one here? Another cloud report. String 13. Oh, metadata. Metar data 6. So Metar data 6 is scattered at 180. And I do have scattered in here. Cool. Cloud cover data, scattered 180. Break. What is the next one? And this one is not a cloud report at all. So what do we have in our cloud report? Raw view, capacity 4, count 3. Yeah, it should have 3 lines for the cloud report. However, we do have 4. Oh, I see. SLP 117. That's where the weirdness is coming from. I don't know what SLP is. So, it is, that's where it's coming from. SLP. Let's find out what SLP means for our Metar. I'm just going to say SLP Metar. Sea level pressure. Interesting. Sea level pressure. So it's grabbing the sea level pressure and thinking it's a cloud thing. So let's run this again here really quick, and we'll look at that string. We'll take these breakpoints out. Yeah, SLP 117 it thinks is a cloud report, but it is not a cloud report. I am getting a whole bunch of notifications here. So I don't have sea level pressure as part of my fields, so I need to do that. And I need to put an if in here that says if it begins with SLP, then it's not a cloud report. And that's part of the remarks, which brings me to another problem. You're decoding it at 6 characters for cloud report. Yeah, basically, I'm bringing this in as, and it's interpreting it as a cloud report, even though it's not. And it's a remark. So I need to, one of the things that I need to do is when the remarks start, then we need to do something different, because remarks are all different. Like AO2 means automatic. It's not human input. Things like that. So I need to basically say, once we've hit remarks, let's start stacking the remarks in that section. That's, yeah, strip off the remarks section and parse separately. That is what I'm thinking. So how can I do that without it being too hokey? Let's see, switch report type. I could just say, let's see, let's throw an if statement in here. If Metar data I RMK, then I'm going to say we have remarks. And then I could just kind of else and go into everything that's not a remark. All the way down here. All right. So how about a for loop below this one for the RMK data? That's what I'm thinking is, if we have remarks, actually I'm not going to do this if else quite this way. Now that I'm starting to think about it for longer than 2 minutes, no. We have remarks. Then, so we're gonna put a bit on this and say, let's see. We'll go up here. Say bool remarks remarks present seems good. And so if there are no remarks present, then we're going to switch. But once remarks are present, then we're not going to do any switching here anymore. This might seem a little confusing at first, but in my head it seems pretty good. So report type, get report type. If we get one that says RMK, that means everything else afterwards is remarks. Then we don't even have to do a second for loop. We can just say if remarks present, switch reports type. I think this is the end of it. Else, we'll stack it in a remarks field. So let's go to our Metar, and we do have a public string remarks. So for now, we can just stack those remarks in there. We'll say store remarks Metar data I. And we will have to go where we're storing things. store altimeter, store wind. Here we go. Do another one here where we say private void store remarks, string remarks. And we're going to say our metar dot remarks I'm probably gonna have to put a space in there or something, or carriage return or something. But now we should be able to just stack those remarks kind of at the end. And that should work. Famous last words, right? It should work. And let me double check my Razor page to make sure that, yeah, if has remarks, then we say remarks. Let's see what that looks like. And I don't see any remarks. Oh yeah, I have a Boolean flag for that too. And we're still getting this. So yeah, I'm going to have to say, let's see. So I've got a switch statement for the ones that we know of. Right, so this is store cloud report. I think in the check that I do, in get report type, I think if it, let's see. I'm going to have to do some kind of check here before I store the cloud. So if it ends with this, if it ends with this. All right, so what I need to do is check in report type that if, let's say, if it is something that looks like a cloud report, but it is not a cloud report. Report type, start remarks. That's right, I did do a check here. If this is all letters, it must be cloud or remarks. If it's RMK, then report type start remarks. That I don't think is going to, yeah, that I don't think is going to work anymore. That's kind of invalid. I invalidated that myself, so. Report type cloud. So if the first three are letters, then it is a cloud type. Unless, let's see. Maybe I can take all of these and say if it's one of these, then it's a cloud report. If not, then it's something completely different. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm just going to dump these into a text file here so I can get that listing. And once again, I've gone over the hour, but that's fine. I'm fairly certain we're still adding value, so it's still perfectly fine. Okay. So should I make this an enum? See, do you ever set the remarks present flag? I do not. Well, I set it up here, but I remember I do have a remarks present flag somewhere. Let's see if, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so remarks present false. You're absolutely correct, Matthias. I am not setting that flag as I should. Remarks present true. So that should make it stack. This is one of the reasons I love streaming, is because there's always such smart people that come on here and and add in. It's like very cool. If I were doing this on my own, I'd be much more frustrated. Oh, and look, it did get rid of it as a cloud report. So that's awesome. That does fix it. Because, yeah, now we have the remark, AO2, SLP, etc. Sea level pressure 117 up until the 27th at something Zulu time. This is basically 2 means we're going to have this issue until this time. So I want to say this is like, I'm actually not sure how to read that one. 2:27, so it's like to today at 8 o'clock maybe? I'm not really sure on the 2-1. We'll have to look that up. But we're still not stacking the remarks in there because up here there's another flag that I need to set, which is has remarks. So I need to set the has remarks flag. We can do that by saying remarks present is true, has remarks is also true. Or we could just eliminate has remarks and put remarks present. And we can use that as the same flag. Has remarks, get rid of that flag. Say if remarks present. Oh, it doesn't exist. Okay, well that's fine. Because I'll just remove this. And we'll say remarks present is false. Renaming a field requires restarting the application. That's fine. We're just renaming this. There are 4 weather entries on the Metar. Perfect. All right, and I will be right back in just a second here. Let's see. Maybe that was 2 seconds. We have remarks. Remarks present is true. So now it should show up. So now we're using that flag, and actually I'm declaring it false twice. We'll fix that. And the what's my IP doesn't work now. Great. So remarks present false. We don't need to do that anymore because we're declaring it false up here at the top. Present remarks present, yeah. Oh, yep. Thank you, Matthias. That's very true. And there's our remarks right there. So for the next iteration of this, I can start interpreting some of those remarks. I'm going to make you pair program on here with me, Matthias, just so you know. We're gonna set it up so that we're somehow pair programming. It'll be fun. It'll be great. For those who don't know, Matthias is one of my team members here at Pluralsight on the developer relations team, and so I always have silly ideas. We all just kind of throw out ideas all the time, and our awesome leader takes them and runs with them or swats them down because we have too many, and it works great. VS Live Share. Oh, that's right. I've never used that before. So that could be perfect. Visual Studio Live Share, or we're just doing it live. And yeah, so like I said, I went way over on the hour again, which I think is like the third or fourth time I've done it here. But today I wanted to refactor this and clean it up, which we have done. We've refactored, we've cleaned it up and we deleted a whole bunch of code, which is my favorite thing to do. As I've said before, I like deleting code far more than I like writing code because it makes it smaller. So now we've got this, so it's a lot more robust. Like it's going through each field and trying to determine what type of field it is. And Surly Dev says T means hourly temperature and dew point, 0 positive number, 272 degrees, and 0 is positive. Awesome. 18.9 degrees Celsius. Oh, okay. Awesome. So what I was probably thinking is the from, which I think is like FR, which is from a certain time period. That's probably why I couldn't decipher that thing, because T is hourly temperature and dew point. I'm going to go back to my local airport here just to check, and then I'll get back to what I was saying. But I wanted to refactor this to make it go field by field instead of specific fields that are indexed, because that is really restraining when you say, if it's field number 1, it must be this. If it's field number 2, it must be this. If at any point any of those fields changes, it knocks everything off. And so I wanted to get rid of that problem, and we did get rid of that problem. So I'm pretty happy about that. And my local forecast looks like everything is populated the way it should be. Looks like we now have some winds. Earlier in the stream we didn't have any wind, but now we have 4 knots of variable winds. No clouds, visibility 10 statute miles, 2271. All this looks great. KMCO. There are 4 entries in the latest Metar. Thank you. I will check that out. KMCO will be our next one we'll check, just as a spot check. KMCO. Awesome. So KMCO, I'm not sure where that is. Oh, we've reached 100 messages today with Restream Chat. That's awesome. Thank you all. Orlando. I probably should have known that. I used to fly into Orlando all the time in the early 2000s. Constantly. I probably should have known that. So in Orlando, it looks like we have a lot of clouds, which, like I said, I used to fly into Orlando all the time. So I don't think I've ever seen Orlando without clouds. So we have 4 different scattered, and overcast. Visibility of 10 statute miles. We've got some remarks here. So for the next iteration, I think we should parse those remarks and try to make sense of them. And I'm going to copy this link. There we go. Orlando International. Now this is a really nice Metar parser here. This is great. This is awesome. 10 miles an hour, temperature, humidity, pressure, visibility, and then there's the 4. This report was made 2 hours and 6 minutes ago. So this is the forecast, which we haven't even jumped into TAFs. So there's two parts of this for pilots that they check, is Metar and TAFs. TAFs is a terminal aerodrome forecast, which is basically it's a weather forecast, what the weather is expected to be. Metar is what it is right now. So that's kind of cool. And then, yeah, this one really Really goes pretty deep. I like it. Here's the forecast. It's 2 hours ago. This is pretty cool. Maybe that'll be the next part of it. We'll do TAFs as well. Remarks. And here's the same remarks that we got from ours. So that's very cool. I like this. I might have to bookmark that site as well. That's awesome. So what I would like to do with this next, it's kind of in pretty good shape, I would say. And of course, like, I can spot check these. We still haven't gotten to the part where I'm going to have to find an IP or an API. I'm going to have to find an API that says what airports are near Hillsboro, Oregon, right? Because my IP address comes up and it says, what's my IP? Your IP is this. You're located in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is close enough. What airports are near Hillsboro, Oregon? Obviously, Hillsboro Airport, Portland Airport, several other airports around here. So I would like to find an API that will say, oh, you're in Hillsboro, there's a Hillsboro Airport, there's a Portland Airport, Salem, etc., and then pull the METARs from that to build this. And say I just put in KJFK here to test it out. So what I would like to do in the next iteration is look at that API, and I would like to do some unit testing on this, because I know that this isn't, I mean, this is fairly solid right now as I do these spot checks. I think it's fairly solid, but I know it's not done yet. Like and it's not international yet. We're still going to have issues with international. So what I would like to do is do some unit tests on this so that I can throw it a whole giant stack of METARs and say, this is what I expect it to look like. You know, so I'm sure most of you are familiar with unit testing and how it works, but that's essentially, I just want to do a whole bunch of asserts, and I'll take just a giant pile of METARs with all the different fields, with different weather patterns, and just really change it up and say, this is what I expect out of it. I think doing that will lead to some refactoring in this stuff, especially like changing the fields around. I'll even take it and like reverse it. Maybe I'll reverse the METAR ordering, things like that. And it looks like Surly Dev has found an API that might work. Let's check it out. Amadeus for developers. Airport and city search. So we'll go to the API Explorer. And yeah, this is probably free, I imagine, like the other one I'm using. But we have locations, distance. Yeah, that would be kind of cool to grab a set of airports and put the METARs here. Oh, what I was saying, in the next iteration, I would like to do some unit testing on this, just so we can really hammer it out, make sure it's solid, make sure it's doing exactly what I think it should be doing. And then we'll step to the next part, which is grabbing this API, because I think it would be really cool, especially on the very first page, to just pop up some weather information here at the nearest airport. And then I'm kind of open for ideas about what to do here. I'm going to put this on GitHub. It's probably going to be on my personal GitHub that I'll put this, but I'll put this up today and send it out. And before I go, I really appreciate everybody here on the chat, chatting it up. There's been a lot of you. It's made it fun and exciting. If you would like some stickers, here's some stickers. My camera doesn't focus that great. Let's go right here like this. Okay, so I've got some stickers here. We've got a laptop with a skull on it. Very cool. We have like flow state, just a whole bunch of stickers, really cool designs. Here's another Pluralsight sticker that's really awesome. Got some that say like, hold on, I'm processing. Anyway, we've got a bunch of these. Some of these are designed by the other person that streams on here, David Neal, who's going to be streaming here on Thursday, that you should check out. We've got Level Up. Anyway, if you would like, try covering your eyes so the camera doesn't see you. That's true, because it's like doing a face focus thing. No, it's still not. I'm just going to get a JPEG, and because I do believe we have a JPEG for these stickers. But anyway, we have a bunch of cool stickers. If you would like them, send me a whisper on Twitch to Pluralsight Live, and we will send you some of these stickers. We'll send you a sticker pack, some really cool laptop stickers, absolutely free, of course. Just, yeah, send us a DM picture, or DM whisper, I think it's called on Twitch, where you whisper. And be sure to follow us here on Twitch, Pluralsight Live. It's the place that we always are at when we do our streaming. I'm going to continue to do this stream every Tuesday. David Neal does a stream every Thursday. He's building some awesome stuff. I know that he is working on a game right now with Electron.js. I don't know a lot about it, but it's super exciting and cool. And then we're also going to do things like at live events, you know, where we interview techs. If you look at some of the previous live streams from last week, we had a bunch of cool people at the Author Summit. Matthias, one of the people that's in the chat, was interviewing a lot of these folks. We're going to do some of that, so be sure to follow us on Twitch. That's where all the good stuff is. And we always go to Twitch, where we sometimes go to YouTube, we sometimes go to Facebook, depending on technical things, but we're always on Twitch. So I wanted to thank everybody. Surly Dev, I'm in the UK. I can still send you stickers to the UK if you would like. So yeah, just let me know on Twitch, and be sure to check out our Cloud Happy program. Just look at hashtag Cloud Happy on Twitter. That's got some information. There's 5 certifications that Pluralsight is opening up the courses for those certifications for free, so you can do 5 certifications for free to the end of the year. I'm going to do one of them. I'm going to do an AWS certification. It's going to be cool. Actually, I could just search Cloud Happy Pluralsight, and I'll bring it up on the screen here. Boop. Where is our Cloud Happy? There we go. I'll bring it up on the screen. Oh, this is an article about it. What Cloud Happy promotion has 5 free fundamentals exam prep. So these are the 5 here. AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, which I think is the one that I'm going to do. I wanted to do the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals because I'm more of a .NET Azure person. However, I think going out of my comfort zone, I've worked with it with AWS, but I'm not an AWS expert. So I think I'm going to do the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner as a part of the Cloud Happy thing. But then we also have Google Cloud Platform Digital Leader. We also have a HashiCorp Terraform Associate and Certified Kubernetes Administrator, which is super in demand. Like, these are all in demand certifications and skills. So they're all free. Check it out, pluralsight.com. And I am going to sign off here. I want to say thank you to everybody that came in the chat, everybody who added in their comments, and everyone who helped me code this and put it together, and everyone that's in the chat, and I'll give you all stickers. Be sure to check us out. I'll be here next week, or earlier, but probably next week, to do a little refactoring and cleaning this up. David Neal will be here Thursday at the same time, doing his thing. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here, and we will see you next week.